going to have a panel session, and that'll be the final panel session for today. After that, we draw the curtains, okay? There'll be a session on trade, investment, and industry with focus on agriculture. And to lead that panel session, I'm going to be calling Natalie Fort. Please put your hands together for her as she comes up to the stage. She's not here yet. Please continue clapping.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to be presiding over this all-important discussion, which serves as our very last panel discussion for the summit. I'm Natalie Fort, a broadcast journalist with GH1 Television, as well as a member of the advisory board of the World Sustainability Organization. So I'm going to call up my panelist, and Dr. Singh, I'd start with you. I would have hoped that you stayed on, but if you can kindly come back up. A round of applause for him, please. And as was mentioned earlier, Dr. Singh is the Director General of the Asian African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Dr. Singh is a global management consultant, a brand maker, philanthropist, media producer, and a world peace advocate. A round of applause for him, please. Our second panelist for this discussion is Mr. Nii Amankra Tete. He's the CEO of Leth Shego Ghana, a licensed financial services provider in Ghana that provides innovative solutions to both public and private sector, as well as supporting micro and small entrepreneurs across the country. He has over 20 years of experience in banking, as well as operations, international trade. Mr. Tete is a change maker, a people leader, and he's driven by meaningful change. A round of applause for him, please. Thirdly, I'd like to introduce Barrister Rebecca Egbokpo, a senior associate at ALEX with experience in international trade law, as well as regulatory compliance and dispute resolution, to name but a few. Barrister Rebecca is a member of the National Bar Association, International Bar Association, and the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in the UK. She previously represented the firm as a consultant to the Nigerian National Action Committee on AFTA. Thank you so much. It's great to have you. And last, but certainly not the least, is Mr. Farouk Kailan. He's an African entrepreneur with a strong commitment to Africa's economic growth. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Premium Africa Holdings. He further serves as strategic advisor to the Royal Family Office in the UAE, as well as managing partner of Acorn Lighting Africa. A round of applause for him, please. Okay. I'm rethinking whether I should sit down or stand because of where you sat, Farouk. So I will, if you can, okay, I'll just sit there, no problem. Once again, a round of applause for them, please, as we get started. So, given to be a little closer, can we swap? Yes, that will be helpful. With Farouk. Yeah, thank you. Great, this is better. So it's a pleasure once again to have you all here for what forms our final panel discussion. Now, there's been a lot of talk today about the new Africa, right, and what this looks like. Now, I'd start off with you, Barrister Rebecca. Reading some statistics, according to the United Nations, presently, intra-Africa trade stands as low as 14.4% of total African exports. And we've had a forecast show that AFTA could help to boost intra-Africa trade, which of course we all know the objective of having set up AFTA. From your observation, what's your assessment of the work of AFTA, since its establishment? And what would you suggest be done to better improve and facilitate its work?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So AFTA is driven to solve the problem that we're having in Africa. There's a lot of emphasis on the development and how, if I decide to choose between two products, one made in China and one made in Ghana, for example, I may end up buying a made in China product in Ghana for cheaper than I will buy a Ghana product in Ghana. That's a problem for Africa. That's one of the problems that AFTA seeks to resolve. Intra-Africa trade is very poor. As much as we try to talk about unity in Africa, collaboration, cooperation, we're saying so much and doing so little. So for us to be able to have an Africa where Africans matter, where our growth matters, where we're able to drive technology and innovation, there is no better way to do it than to trade within ourselves. That's what the European Union is enjoying, and there's no reason why we shouldn't do that for ourselves. Absolutely. So AFTA is a concept that will come to stay. It's already gaining a lot of traction. Businesses are being sensitized to understand what to do and how to tag along in ensuring that they're able to maximize the potentials. But it's just, the first steps we're taking now. It's a very futuristic concept. It's not going to give us all the intended results in the immediate, but we're going to continue to work towards ensuring that, on the long run, we achieve an Africa that is fast developed because Africans are beginning to do things together. So that's where we're going.
Very well. Now, having said that, I'd move over to you now, Nii Tete. You have worked in various industries for quite some time. What have you observed to be these major bottlenecks and major obstacles when it comes to increasing investment in not just Ghana, but across the continent?
Thank you very much, Natalie. So, I like to always speak about some of the exciting things that are happening before we always get into
the negative things.
Bottlenecks.
Yeah.
But in spite of all the challenges that people see in Africa, the last decade or so have been, the word is miraculous.
Yeah.
Things have happened in Africa that nobody expected to happen. Things have happened in Africa that no one saw happening. I think probably one of the landmark things should be what's happened in mobile telephony and that partnership with finance, particularly M-Pesa, and what we are looking at right now with our Momo payments, where we've got in excess of 60 billion CDs in transactions. That just those 20 CDs, 30 CDs, all of that, large volumes. So a lot is happening in terms of how we adopt to new technology, Africa's hunger for technology in spite of challenges sometimes with literacy, Africa's hunger to be better in spite of a lot of the challenges that we face. And I think that those are platforms on which we can stand to actually change the face of Africa. But that said, I think my biggest challenge, or the question I ask myself, because for me, when the narrative is told, it's not other people. I am part of this story, and I'd like to see how am I coming out of this story.
Absolutely.
It's just the inertia. And I've asked myself the question, why?
Why?
It's almost like you can see that we can fly, but we choose to walk. A lot of these conferences and meetings happen across Africa, and millions of dollars are poured into trying to get that consensus to lift things up, but sadly, nothing is really happening.
You say that more is being invested in them than
exactly.
we're actually getting out.
So, yes, they are great stories, but to your question, there are also these things that just almost don't make sense. Almost as much as the success stories, there are also challenges too that you can't kind of understand why it's still there. So if you look at Africa's trade, for example, with the rest of the world, if we decided to just do it in Africa, we actually don't need the world. And I'm not saying we shouldn't trade with the world. I'm just saying that the potential is so huge, I do not see why we're crossing oceans to find value. It's mind-boggling. I look at the trade between Ghana and Togo and see what Ghana and Togo do with external parties outside of Africa. And I'm saying it's just an imaginary line, but yet we won't cross over to trade. And in the same vein, we look at our own countries, and technology is not lacking. The ability to do so is not lacking. But it's almost like we choose not to go forward. So there's an inertia that just characterizes the narrative of Africa, in spite of all the amazing things that we see that are possible. And for myself, over the last 20 years in the financial services in Ghana, it's been nothing short of a miracle. And I've been fortunate to work in traditional banking and move into financial inclusion and back and forth a bit. So I see the opportunities and the change. I was actually speaking to a friend and I said, actually the last 10 years have been miraculous, because we started when almost just about 15 years ago, 90% of every single transaction at the bank, you had to walk to the bank to do it.
Sure.
Then just 10 years ago, 90% of all those transactions moved to the ATM.
Yes.
And we're doing only 10% in the branch. Guess what it is today?
Please tell us.
The ATMs are almost becoming redundant.
No one is using them.
No one is using them. Well, they're still in use, but if you take a look at the number of transactions, we have 80-something% happening on mobile apps, maybe some 10 to 15 on ATMs, like 5% in the branches. So it shows that we are willing to change, and change is possible. But I don't know, when it comes to that point where we can actually make that shift to the leap,
Absolutely.
then we decide, okay, no, we want to walk through it. and so it's frustrating and exciting almost all at the same time. And that's just, for me, anytime I think of the African story, it's the joy and the pain, the excitement and the missed opportunities moment.
It's difficult. That paints it's a hopeful, yet it can also be a gloomy picture at the same time. But hopefully through engagements like this, we will begin to see.
I would love to add up
please do.
maybe
Go
a
ahead.
couple of points, because I think
Sure.
whatever my friend has been talking so far is like completely logical, that Africa has everything. When you talk about resources, soil, and the, the elements which are coming out of it, whether it's oil, gold, diamonds, anything, they're all material which is very valuable. But we are not concentrating on how exactly we can collaborate with each other. So just like, my friend said that AFTA is going to play a major role. So I think the free trade has always played a vital role for creating economies and building the nations. So I think this is just the beginning of it, because I think there are few nations, those who have adapted, and I think among the 54, almost 16 or 19, they have collaborated now, and they're working on it. So as soon as we will all start working as a collaborative partner, just like African Union, so it has to be one Africa. And unless that happens, I don't think that we can take this energy to the next level. Absolutely. And of course, one more point which I would like to add, that is ease of doing business in any country makes the economy grow. So wherein I still struggle to sometime identify the norms, because there are a lot of investors, those who come with us, and they want to set up companies. They want to set up companies in remote locations in Africa, such as Togo, Benin, Malawi and all other, because they are very small in terms of their approach and reach. And I would say that the problem what you are also facing is the same problem the investor coming to your place is facing, that logistical support. So I think in order for us to bring Africa on the world map has to be, I think two countries will play a major role. One is Kenya and the other one is Accra, which is Ghana. So I think, probably why? Because Kenya acts as a heart of Africa, and you can play the role of the lungs maybe.
Well, how about Nigeria anyway?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nigeria is the economic hub, and it has been the powerhouse so far. But I think, in terms of connectivity, just like Dubai has become the major world connectivity hub, I think, same way, we can see these two countries playing a major role for the connectivity to the East and the West Africa. And apart from that, I think once the government looks into the role of ease of doing business and opening up companies in a day, just like you go to Singapore, you can open up the company in the single day, sign up documents, open the bank account, and the second day you are running business. So you are in the business. So if an investor comes to Africa, to any country, and he finds that there is an ease of doing business in that country, and he can be an investor, I think his money is safe. And on the second note, I think, we will have to strongly agree that the fluctuation in the foreign exchange is actually degrading Africa's growth, primarily. Yeah. What I believe in terms of trade and economy. So I think unless we try to, conquer on this point of view, we will never be in position to make the currency grow and have a value for money. Because I think every second day when I visited Ghana in this year itself, it's my 7th visit probably. And each time I've seen the dollar rate changing.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. So I think it happens in Ghana. No, it happens in all the African countries. So it happens the same. When I was there in Nigeria during my summit, the demonetization was going on and the situation was worst. In fact, people were asking from me that whether you have some dollars. I said, yes, of course. So they were so happy to see the dollar finally. So I'm saying that why? This looks to me little funny because the system is not made like this. It is only that, due to the political scenario. So we'll all have to rise up to this situation. Certainly. Because I think yes.
Please, for purposes of time, we could go into this and discuss it extensively.
Oh, yes.
But when Mr. Tete spoke about we seem to be getting there, and
Absolutely.
Then we just don't.
Absolutely.
There's so much that politics and government has a role to play with that. But we'll put that conversation aside for later.
True.
Now, Mr. Kaylan, you have worked extensively across many African countries as well as the UAE. On varied platforms, you've spoken about the need for there to be partnership amongst, say, you're a Ghanaian, do business in Nigeria, do business in Kenya, which is a very strong point, which was just buttressed by Mr. Tete. In spite of the fact that we are promoting Africa, we are looking for investments to come into the continent, into the various countries on the continent. How do you propose that both the government and private sector ensure that this promotion of Africa does truly benefit the African people at the ground level, right? Because we may say this money is coming in, investment is coming in, the people at the bottom, how is it affecting and improving their lives?
Well, very good question. I think in our quest to drive investment into Africa, one thing that always bothers me about, do we really consider the factor that a lot of time this profits that are made by these companies go back outside the country. So capital flight is a very big concern. There needs to be strategies to ensure that these profits that companies make stay within continent. That's why I've been very consistent in my advocacy, frontline advocacy, I must say, in ensuring that as government creates the enabling environment for investment, what are the locals doing? Are we maximizing on the opportunities? are these companies being owned by, locals to ensure that once they grow to a certain scale, the growth, the capital, everything stays within the continent. We don't blame an investor for repatriating his profit back home. So it brought us on the point that even what we see recently, when we started the Turkey Africa Trade and Investment Council, we sat down with potential investors and we said, look, we have a concern about capital flight, and we also have a concern where investors come and actually crowd certain businesses out of sectors and spaces. What we're seeking to do with you guys is come and buy into these companies so that these companies, you don't come and compete them out of the market, but actually join them to scale up. And in terms of the share ownership, can we ensure that you hold quite a reasonable stake so that all the profit that doesn't go out? So it's about the intentionality, and also we also have to be very strategic on how we drive investment. Even in the UAE, what you've realized is that quite recent, I think 3 days ago, I saw a flyer that says invest in America. It's an aggressive enterprise. As much as you're trying to drive investment into the continent, Asia is doing same. Other jurisdictions are pushing that investors come there. So you need to present a better case. You need to also ensure that your regulatory framework is very enabling. If you have a business in the UAE, what you realize is that every month or every quarter you are getting questionnaire from the managers of the economy. How is the business going? Do you have any challenges? So you can see how deliberate they are. And whatever information you give is processed. They look from a dashboard, they could tell the tourism industry is having these challenges, the numbers are going down, people are coming from Ghana, why are they not coming anymore? They will come and interrogate why is it that the flights are not full when they are coming from Ghana. Well, I think they have an issue of currency and issues. Is there a way we can, because it's somebody is losing sleep over the fact that money needs to come in. I've lost count the number of times I've sat with, the Dubai Chamber of Commerce and tried to see how we drive investment into Africa. Right after the conversation, they say, oh, so how do you also drive investment from Africa into, I'm like, don't you pity us? But it tells you it's not a pity party. It takes deliberate effort. It takes strategy. It takes consistency to do that. So in terms of public-private partnership, we need to show leadership in that space. We need to also go out there, make our case. And when investors come, we should also ensure that they are here to succeed. We should have the conversations with them. Is there a way you can retain some of your profits here? CSR is a big conversation. Is there a way where you can also even create subsidiaries out of your business? We should find smart ways to ensure that the capital, the profit stays within the continent. Thank you.
Very good points. Very good points. We should sort of have a science to it, right? I guess is also what you're saying. Have a science to it and study.
Great.
Actually study the level of investments. Now, given time, we can't go extensively, but I just want for each of you to touch briefly on agriculture. Now, we couched this topic, trade, investment, and industry, but industry with a focus on agriculture, right? One industry that, although it's witnessed quite a good amount of growth over the years, is agriculture. However, some staggering statistics that I found is that Africa is the most food insecure region in the world, which I'm sure many of us may be privy to, with over 232 million undernourished people. But at the same time, we have the most potential for agricultural production in the world, really. Why is this the case? I just want a minute each.
Very nice. In fact, I think, this is a beautiful question. And I can say that there are hundreds of reasons which I can give. But since the time is short and I want to keep it crisp, so the first reason which I think is the technology transfer. Now, when you talk about, this is what we are trying from the chamber case to bridge the gap. Now, there is good technologies available in the Asian market, which typically when you talk about the Chinese, the Korean, the Indians, and all other people are using, but they are not able to translate that into the African market, not because they don't want to, but it's only that there are a lot of hurdles in between. So I think we have to sort these kind of hurdles with the government angle. So I think the government has to take ownership on that front, number one. Number two, I think unless we create more awareness about how exactly they can use these technologies. So first is bringing the technology and then making use of it. Because unless the farmers are trained, so training is a big issue. And I think, you have ample amount of land, you can harvest, you can produce anything, and you can do your maximum exports. But why exports are not being done in the same fashion wherein the other Asian counterparts or the other people are doing it? It's only because lack of training, lack of education. They are still using the olden era ages products and all. And then they are not able to focus on the organic farming, which is growing, because even if they have one such beautiful organic farm park, I think they can focus on creating a beautiful legacy for years to come. And then they can grow their market. They can export in the European market as well, because the demand is huge.
Certainly.
I have seen specifically in Kenya and other regions, I think, even in Accra, avocado is doing good. And now they have started selling the oil to the European market, which is of course giving them tremendous amount of results. So these are the kind of products which they have to identify and then start marketing on
Very
it.
well. So
Right.
still some ease of doing business comes in, even here with agriculture, and then
Absolutely.
educating the farmers.
Yes.
Very well, thank you. Now, Barrister Rebecca, what's your brief take on it? In a minute, I'd be grateful, or two maximum.
Okay, thank you. So for me, I have a lot of experience with agriculture because I farm.
Wonderful.
Yes, on the side,
Great.
I actually farm, and I have had personal challenges with farming. So first, I would say that infrastructure deficits is a very big issue in Africa. It's not enabling us to maximize our potential. We have the land, we have it very fertile, but we don't have the right infrastructure. An average farmer is using local implements, is not using the right tools that can give him a large scale of harvest. So that already is a threat to food security. How do we meet local demand, and then how do we talk about exporting? We are barely meeting local demands, then how do we go into the global market? Another challenge that comes with agriculture is the issue of standard. He talked a little about it, organic farming and standard. Most times we have the product, but before they even get exported, they're bad. How do you send bad products to the market? If they're not bad, they're not meeting up with the standards of the market that you're exporting them into. So there is need for a lot of awareness. People need to understand that it's not just about having what to eat. It's about doing it the right way so that you can maximize the potential for economic purposes, for your own health benefits, and for also alleviating poverty, because really the farmers are like the poorest people in the world. I mean, in Africa, perhaps. Yeah. But that should not be the case, because everybody eats. That's a very, very huge market. No farmer should be poor. It's like an automatic means of making money, but it's not as easy as it sounds, because it's difficult to till the ground. Year in, year out, I put in a lot of millions into farming. Sometimes the yield is poor, sometimes the yield is good, but it's not consistent. So it's a very risky endeavor, because I mean, as much as the soil is there, there's also the natural forces that helps, to improve productivity. So technology, innovation, infrastructural growth, and then getting the right knowledge across to the farmers so that they're able to utilize it appropriately to maximize the potential.
Absolutely, very salient points, thank you. And that just brings to mind two things on domestic agriculture, the whole concept of domestic agriculture, having individuals even farm, household farming, but that's a lengthy topic, so we'll put it aside for now, and women in agriculture as well. Please do go ahead and share your thoughts briefly.
I think I'd just like to leap off from where Barrister stopped
Certainly, no
on the
problem.
on the issue around awareness. That probably is our biggest challenge. There's just a need for us to understand where we are and to seize the moment. You know, I used to travel along the road to Lomé via Anglon, and I used to see those Charlotte fields. It's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. And it's not very advanced technology in irrigation. It's actually the very old methods they learned many years ago. But you should see that grow. The technology is not new technology, but the technology is traditional.
A local method.
It's theirs. So you should see they can cultivate all year round.
Wow.
Great stuff, and a lot is coming out of there because, especially from that, the shallot farmers, the onion farmers, those small vegetables. But the challenge is that whilst that could be done on 100 hectares, we choose to do 10.
Choose to, yeah.
And so that's where the whole awareness. But the funny thing about this is that they could, if they wanted to, instead of having one farmer do 1 hectare, 1 hectare, 1 hectare, and the entire village got together, because they are all farmers, they could actually do, and they've got the land. It's not like it's limited. The next thing is the need for business to probably take the lead. I think we are too limited by the fact that we expect government to lead. And unfortunately, across most of Africa, government simply has been too slow to the mark. We need government. I'm not saying we don't need them. But probably business needs to start to take the lead, because business sees the need. Business has the ambition and the probably the verve to, the need to succeed. So probably business needs to take the lead. And across the world, I mean, now we've got businesses that are the size of whole governments. If you take agriculture, I mean, some of them have got not great reputations, but they are there. Monsanto, great company that's taking over the world in agriculture.
Yeah.
So maybe businesses in Africa need to begin to do that. And that's not to say they are not. You see extremely exciting work that some commercial enterprises in Ghana, for example, in Nigeria, for example, are doing amazing stuff. In Tanzania, you see stuff and you're like really excited. So that's the next thing. That businesses, understand that if they wait for government, they'll probably be late by about a decade.
Yeah.
And they would lose the momentum or the opportunity.
Oh, the opportunity.
And for me, it's the opportunity that's really sad. And so if we have the opportunity to do it, businesses need to stop waiting for government to take the lead. We can't depend on government in our part of the world now. We need to challenge the government. And a lot of what's happening in terms of change, or what's really succeeding, is because businesses have pulled government along. And they've actually said, we are here. One of the exciting things is fintech. You see that it's happening. Yeah. If you don't move, crypto is going to do it. So do you want to regulate it, or do you want to be behind and keep us in that market? So businesses need to step forward and pull government along. Government can take the lead.
Certainly, that's a brilliant point. I mean, even not that it's in agriculture, but Dangote, the recent refinery, it's business, but it's just changing. It's the largest, really. So that's a brilliant point. Farouk, I take your comments on this briefly.
To buttress what the other panelists have said, I want us to clap for Barrister for being a farmer.
Yes. We certainly should.
It's very encouraging. I think for me, when it comes to government, it's always disheartening, because we're just overwhelmed by the amount of policy somersaults quite recently, I went to one of Africa's countries. I mean, I'm at liberty to mention Sierra Leone, and I thought I was the hero. I'm bringing the magic wand to the Ministry of Agriculture. This is the game changer. I took my proposal there. They actually pulled a proposal that was 10 times better than what I was presenting. I'm like, so what is this thing doing here? Also, the guy who had it, his laptop crashed, and he went to a funeral, and it tells you who we are as a people. The urgency to develop is not there. So when it comes to government, we rather not talk about it. Let's allow the private sector to drive this. Even as you mentioned, we were, even in terms of fintech, by the time governments were realized some magic was happening, and they needed to call people and make sure that those in the space joined in terms of framing the policy to help. So as privates, and even it tells the sort of people we are. I don't know if I call it wickedness. You have institutions. Why is it that if as a collective as Africa, we realize that food security is a major concern, why are the banks not having farms? As a bank, you have structure. You have structure that ensures that every investment that you do yields result. Translate that same structure into farming, and you are the main people who have the major components of the funds. What are you doing? But you find people, even when we start having a conversation about frustration in agriculture, you find top of banking institutions also sit and they have the audacity to also talk about the issues. So it tells the sort of people we are. When we say, let's build infrastructure to ensure that the produce from the farms come, you realize that when it comes from the farm, government goes to borrow money to create this road network, and when the produce comes to the city, it's even much more expensive than when the road was bad. So it just exposes us as a people. And like I said, it takes meetings like this. Some of the greatest disruptive solutions were made in smaller rooms. So when I come to summits like this, I'm not worried about the site. I'm worried about the fact that even it's a small room of serious people who want to do something. So for me, like I said, I'm a doer. I'm not here to call people out. I'm actually doing. Recently, we brought some tractors to Ghana. We tried to sell. They were not moving. We said, what are we going to do? So we were going to partner people who have funds but cannot afford, so that we make use of these things. So it's, like I said, we should be serious about development. It's not a casual conversation. It's for people who want to see development. African politicians can only pretend that they want development, but it will never happen. Certainly. So let's change our orientation. Farming, like we said, if today all our data goes off, you will see the level of frustration in this room. But we are not frustrated about the food conversation. We are not. Because no matter what, some way, somehow, we will have our 3-course meals today. We'll go to sleep. We'll wake up next month. The same thing. We'll always eat. Whether it's difficult or not, we always eat. So the issue of food security is very important. Let's call out the corporates to go into farming. When we see that people are going into farming, everybody else will go into farming. We don't necessarily have to all go. We can also say, look, every month as friends, let's bring 2,000 Ghana cedis, 50,000 naira. At the end of the month, let's go outside Accra. Let's go sit on our farms. Let's do something. Let's take initiative. Let's be serious. Let's take initiative. Thank you.
Very excellent points. Thank you so much, Farouk Kaylan, for rounding up with that. Now, this is my very final question before we round up, because we have to move into the gala and awards section. When you said let's be serious, one big threat to agriculture is mining, be it legal or illegal mining. We've had, well, this is Ghana, we've had the government speak extensively. We've had President Akufo-Addo take on a whole campaign to end illegal mining. Galamsey. It's still going on, and it's going on by a number of big wigs. Very briefly, whoever would want to take this, how can we ensure that some form of a balance is drawn as it pertains to mining, legal mining, not destroying our arable lands?
I suppose Faruka will be the culprit to answer that one. Yeah, so, I mean, look, if we were going to start with all the excuses that finance we typically give for agriculture, we would not leave this place. And that's not what I'm going to try to do. I read agriculture as my first degree.
Oh, wonderful.
And I set out to want to do agriculture. I wanted to be a plantation farmer. Okay. It didn't quite work with the woman I wanted to marry, so I had to look at a new strategy. But that's another story. That's another story. One of the biggest gaps between financing and agriculture, especially on the scale we want in Ghana, is that agriculture somehow has not been able to convince the givers of the finance that the money is safe. Unfortunately, the long line of failed agricultural ventures makes everybody step up. And I'm going to own up to that. I sit in so many meetings where we are looking at products, agri-enterprises, and we want to fund. In my case, because I had done it before, I'm a lot more comfortable with it. But typically, you find out that many finance people or bankers don't understand jack about farming. They don't. So let's just take poultry farming. You want to do a poultry farm, and you want to start, you want to buy 1,000 birds and do that. Poultry farming is a very intricate, serious business. If you miss the vaccine 1 week, you are done. If someone comes out and does not put his foot in the dip for, you know, what's the word? For just taking out the viruses, you infect the birds, 1,000 birds go. So you need a banker to understand that, and most bankers don't. So the first step is, how do we get bankers to get agri training? And in a previous life, what we tried to do was to actually work with the University of Ghana to set up a program for bankers to come in, like a 1 year, 6 month, 1 year thing that allows a banker to see agriculture like a farmer would, so they can support. And one institution in Ghana is actually doing a fantastic job on that, GESAL. GESAL has been, in the last 2 years, has trained probably about 40 credit people in banking to do that. So you will see over the last 4 years a tick up in projects, significantly large-sized projects that are being funded just because of that gap that's been closed. And I believe if we want to take that further, we need to make this accessible. We should be in some of our colleges, some of the schools should actually start to teach agri-financing, because that's how bankers then understand it and connect, and the experiences are easily solved if they connect. So that's one big gap. There are many other things. There are some people who their money will simply not go there. And that's where I agree with you that they are the ones killing it. But for those who want to do it but don't understand it, that's one of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, okay.
So there's another part of it. It's insurance. Insurance plays a very important role in agriculture. And for some countries, they have it like institutional based. So they have like an insurance, agriculture insurance institution that manages credit facilities that goes into agriculture. So that if you have those risk triggers, there is, you know, a balance for it. The money doesn't just go into the wind. The farmer is insured, the bank is insured, because like I said earlier, agriculture is a very huge risk. He just gave you an example of what can happen because of a very simple, something you call minor, can be very grave. So insurance helps to, you know, balance the risk on that as well.
Thank you. Brilliant. Any other contribution, Farouk?
Yeah, I think even in this meeting, a solution has been drawn. We should be pro-solution. Let's not make the problems look bigger than us. I mean, Doc here has professed the solution. Let's start training bankers in their space.
Very well.
Excuse is easy. You can make excuse and everybody, oh yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But when you start thinking about a solution, we should be able to do it. The concern about insurance, okay, insurance in agriculture is a big conversation. Insurance institutions are concerned that when they insure people, they will mess their money up. Set a good example. Every insurance company should say, based on the fact that food security is a major concern, we've decided to partner some farming communities to establish farms. Even in the process, you build local capacity. People will learn and see how to mitigate the risks in agriculture. Like I said, development is deliberate. Let's be deliberate about it. The excuses are valid. The solutions will also be valid. So let's be pro-solution. And for me, I don't speak in the context of I've lost hope. There's so much hope. I'm sure from this meeting, some consciousness will build. We have our brother here, Dr. Singh here, who borrowed the technology from India, the solutions, how they've been able to do it to a certain point. And we could also advance our economic, growth in that space.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to conclude, I think I would like to sum it up in a way where you want to increase the trade economy through agriculture or maybe through any other mode. There are two things which will work proficiently and which has to act together. One is strategy and the second is execution. Now, if you have a good strategy but you don't execute and you just sit on it, it's not going to deliver. So I think I would like to say that we all need to plan, strategize, but at the same point of time, we should be passionate enough to see that the government is also actually acting on it and execution is being done on time. Unless these two things come very passionately, I don't think we can go anywhere in this discussion, because together these two words make sense. Otherwise, it's like waste. So a strategy without an execution is always a waste. So I think for Africa, my call, my take is to see that we all need to plan, strategize well, but at the same point of time, we all have to work hard, passionately, show some passion, and see that we execute what was planned. Because majority of the time, as a management consultant, a lot of companies, they come up to me, they ask for the consulting, and then I end up asking only one thing. You have a beautiful strategy, everything was correct, where you failed. So we couldn't execute. So this is the only problem which any organization has. And in order to have a sustainable business, I think strategy without execution will play no role. So just understand these two words and follow it correctly. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. We should ensure we execute. There have been brilliant points made by each of you. Thank you so much for sharing. Barrister Rebecca Egbokpo, Farouk Kailan, Ni Amankra Tete. Thank you so much. Dr. Singh, thank you too. Thank you all so much. This forms the final panel discussion for tonight. Thank you. Yes. Thank you too. Thank you.